Generally, I would say when you are training for rugby and you want to improve performance, you need to make sure that you tick the following boxes. What is up YouTube? Back with another video, and as you know, the point of all my videos on my channel is to help you as much as possible to improve your performance as an athlete. And today's video is more geared towards rugby players. This might still be beneficial for you to watch if you're not a rugby player, because maybe you can get some idea on how to program for your own sport and how to look at the demands of your own sport and how you might address that programming for yourself. Today's video is just a general outline on how rugby players should be training to improve their performance on the field. This channel is all about helping other people. I have a bunch of other videos on my channel where I address a lot of topics, and the idea behind this channel is to address as many topics as possible so I can help you with the questions I battled with basically throughout my entire career, and basically I had to sift through a lot of really shitty advice and basically get through to the better advice. So hopefully if you are on the channel, go through that. If you want to support me in another way or you want to help yourself with some training, you can go through my website. It is in the description. You can check out some of the programs over there, and obviously you'll be helping yourself as well because these are really good programs. I put them there. You have two options, either the Total Athlete program or you have the Athletic Endeavours program. Total Athlete program I recommend if you are in an off-season time and you have some time to train by yourself and you do not have any real formal commitments to teams. And the Athletic Endeavours program is just if you want cheap, good programming throughout every single month and you don't want to pay too much for it. Without further ado, let's get to the video. So real quick, I want to discuss the training for rugby players. So I'm not going to really go into depth of what you need to be doing, like the sets and reps and all those type of things, but I do want to discuss how to train as a rugby player and how to really address and to make sure that you are ticking the right boxes in order to perform at your best. Players are kind of like the most hybrid form of athletes I think that you can get. Some people might argue it's more CrossFit, and obviously now you have high rocks and you have all of these different types of things out there, and hybrid training has become super popular. So when I throw out that term hybrid training, I do not mean necessarily that you need to train like a hybrid athlete or some of these endurance athletes, because all those people really are is they're kind of not terrible weightlifters and they don't have bad physiques and they run really far, and that's kind of what they are. That is not what I mean when I say rugby players are hybrid athletes. What I mean by saying is rugby players are hybrid athletes because rugby players require, and this is because of the demands of the sport, require various physical qualities. Sometimes these physical qualities do not overlap really well, meaning training for one might make it even more difficult to train for the other. And unfortunately, because there are so many different qualities that rugby players need to train, you obviously get athletes that bias one physical quality more than the other. And because that one physical quality is overlooked, their performance takes a dip. And that happens a lot. In the most cases with most rugby players that I train, I would say that most rugby players emphasize the gym more than they do the speed work, which is super important. And then I have some other athletes who emphasize a real lot of conditioning work, almost training to the point where you might say they are training for a marathon, opposed to training in the gym and getting stronger and faster. So you have a lot of these things because rugby requires us to be fit. It requires us to be agile. It requires us to be strong. It requires us to be fast. And it requires you to have some type of muscle on you to be able to survive contact, because it's a contact sport and the muscle is there to give you general capacity. You need to be conditioned for 80-minute games, maybe covering up to 5 to 10 kilometers. There you have a brief overview of everything that you need to cover. Maybe it's overwhelming for you, and I think it really is. I think if you say that training or programming for your rugby is easy, then probably your program is not that great, or you're one of the few who gets it right. Even I till this day struggle with the balancing of all those things, especially if you're in season. That's probably your most challenging part. because you need to focus on still performing for the game on Saturday, at the same time not losing any of the physical qualities or maintaining that you worked so hard for. Generally, I would say when you are training for rugby and you want to improve performance, you need to make sure that you tick the following boxes. Make sure that you are strength training. I would really recommend that you try and fit in 2 to 3 gym sessions per week. Within this gym session, you need to have yourself jumping for distance, jumping for height, and doing some bounce, skips, and all those type of things within your gym session. Doesn't have to be every single gym session, maybe just twice per week. You need to be lifting heavy weights in that gym session. I would say use your compound exercises, use deadlift, front squat. If you want to use Olympic lifts, that's great as well. Front squat, back squat, bench press, RDL, all those things. Use those tools, lift heavy. Don't annihilate yourself, but lift heavy. It needs to be difficult. With that, I would say that you need to focus on building a lot of capacity or muscle, however you want to call it, fancy words. You need to lift some type of weights more into the higher rep ranges, and you need to do this consistently. The whole idea with training like that is that you need to apply progressive overload. You need to actually get stronger at these lifts progressively. Then I would say to improve your performance, you need to do 1 to 2 sprint sessions per week. I think if you're in season, you can get away with 1 real sprint session per week. And if you're not in season, maybe 2 sprint sessions per week. With this sprint session, you also maybe need to include at least some type of conditioning in the form of shuttles, in the form of a bronco test, in the form of tempo runs, and any of those type of things. You need to be doing that at least once per week. Your sprinting already does have some type of conditioning effect, but you need to be able to do work for longer amounts of time. With this, I would also like to include that if you're in off season, playing some type of game like maybe informal touch rugby or any type of form of cardio that you could do will also help. Then as an extra bit, because this is usually not included a lot in strength and conditioning videos, but I think it's something that athletes need to hear because they neglect it, is work on the actual sport outside of your training as well, or maybe before your training, but it shouldn't be just a part of your formal training. You cannot train for your sport only when you have formal trainings. You need to train for it in other ways as well. So train for your sport outside of the formal trainings at least once to twice per week. That should also be included in your development, because you can train as much as you like. If you suck at that part of your sport, it's probably not going to help as much. If you want me to cover any more topics or any other topics or any other questions that you have, I will cover it in the next video.